Hey guys, it's LEGO Boys E3. This is my basic tutorial on how to memorize algorithms on the Rubik's Cube. So today is going to be a basic beginner's walkthrough of something that I get a lot of complaints and questions about on my videos. Basically, it's that I'm giving you all these algorithms to memorize on a 3x3 to be able to solve it, or on some other cube. Now, how do I take that big string of letters, which of course correspond to moves on a cube, but how am I able to actually take those and be able to memorize it so that I can do it without looking at the actual moves? So for practically every single algorithm that you learn, what it will come down to is muscle memory. And so basically what that is you'll just be able to move your fingers in a way that you can't really explain. It just kind of flows into an algorithm. It doesn't have to be that fast, it can just be like this. But you're not really thinking about the moves you're doing. You're just kind of doing it, and you kind of think about the algorithm that you're doing, and it just kind of happens. Now that is what muscle memory is, but if you're just kind of learning an algorithm, that may kind of seem crazy. Like, how am I supposed to take this and be able to just do it like that? Now, of course, you have to memorize it. There are actually a ton of different ways to memorize algorithms. I'm going to be showing you a lot of those in this video. But what it comes down to is practice. So you figure out a way to memorize the algorithm. You can do it as slowly as you want, as badly as you want. Just make sure that you can do it without looking at a piece of paper. And once you get to that point, once you no longer have to look back at the video to be able to do it, then with practice, it will eventually just become as simple as muscle memory. You just have to do it over and over again after having memorized it, and then eventually it'll become muscle memory. Okay, so now we're back at the same problem again. We have this string of letters, and we're not sure what to do be able to do it every time on this cube without looking. And the kind of tricky thing is there's no best way to memorize in general. There's no best way to memorize a particular algorithm in most cases. What it comes down to is you have to figure something out for yourself. I'm going to be giving you a lot of different examples in this video, and those should hopefully be able to help you somewhat, but ultimately you need to find something that you will remember. And normally the thing that you will remember the most is the thing that you came up with. So if you come up with a really cool way of like, you have to do it this way, then this way, and this way, and you do that for a whole algorithm and it just kind of makes intuitive sense to you, then that will be the best way of memorizing it for you because it will stick in your head. And every time you go back to do that algorithm, it will kind of be with you because you came up with it. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to get that out of the way first. The best way of memorizing is your way of memorizing. So now on to some more specific examples. So here is one quick trick to start out with. Basically, if you're looking at a whole big long algorithm, you don't actually have to memorize that entire thing. Instead, what you just have to do is memorize most of it. Maybe all but like 3 or 4 moves. Then once you get to that point before those moves, you can kind of just look at the cube and kind of intuitively figure out how to do it. And so this right here is the UB perm. That algorithm I have on screen there is the algorithm to solve this case. And so that first little part of it, R2, U, R, U, R prime, U prime, I memorized with a couple of other tricks that I'll be showing you later on. But for that last little part, those last like 5 moves, what I do is I just kind of look at the cube. I know that I have to do an R prime move. Actually, that one doesn't really count. But then I can kind of see that these orange match up with these orange, same with this green. Just kind of goes together. And then these yellow and this green kind of matches up with these yellow and these green. And then it just kind of goes together like that. Of course, you kind of do have to have like a general idea of like the sides that you're turning. Like I know it's just the R and the U sides that I'm turning at the end of that one. But as long as you learn most of that and you're kind of familiar with what the last part's like, then you can just memorize that part and the last part should come pretty easily. That's actually how I learned this algorithm in the first place. Now next up, another tip when you're actually looking at an algorithm and kind of breaking it up into smaller parts so that you can memorize those easier, like kind of one at a time. An easy way to break things up is using triggers. And so basically what a trigger is something like this. So R, U, R prime, U prime. That's basically the most common one. There's also the opposite of that, U, R, U prime, R prime. There's lots of other things like there's R prime, D prime, R, D. You probably learned that one as a beginner. There's also like R, U, R prime. You could basically call anything like this a trigger. R, U to R prime, anything like that. Maybe any combination of L moves that are similar to that. Basically just little groups of moves that are very easy to execute like that, but are also very easy to recognize within an algorithm. And so one algorithm that I use these for is the soon algorithm. So that's the very basic one that you're using just as a beginner, just like this. It's R, U, R prime, U, R, U to R prime, and this is the state of the cube that will become solved after you do that algorithm on it. And so it's very easy to break this up into triggers. You can have R, U, R prime, U as one trigger. You can just think of that as moving the right side up, U side, right side back down, and then the exact same thing on the U side. And then the second trigger would be R, U to R prime. So again, that's just moving the right side up, over, and then back down. So on a cube that looks like this. R, U, R prime, U, and then R, U2, R prime. Now, of course, if you have some weird algorithm that has something like an R, F, U prime or something weird like that, that's of course not a trigger. And so yeah, not all algorithms can be broken down into triggers like the soon algorithm can, but that's a good thing to look out for if you're trying to break down an algorithm. Just look for those things like R, U, R prime, maybe R, U, R prime, U prime, things like that, and those will make it a lot easier. Now here's another way of memorizing that will allow you to break down algorithms into even more smaller parts. So this right here is the JB perm. So it's R, U, R prime, F prime, R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R2, U prime, R prime, U prime. Pretty long, pretty annoying seeming, but that's just if you're like staring at the piece of paper, doing those moves one at a time, not even looking at the cube at all. It actually makes it a lot simpler if you look at the cube and you actually look at the different pieces and how they're being moved around by the moves that you're doing. And so this method is basically just tracking around pieces as you're turning the cube. And so in this algorithm, I first start off with this F2L pair right here. So I'll look at these two pieces and I'll just kind of start out the algorithm with moving them up to the top layer over here. And then I want to move them back into the bottom layer, but over adjacent to where they used to be. So they used to be over here, and now I'm moving them over here. And now we're going to take this new pair that took its place, and we're going to move it up and over into the same spot. Then we do a single R prime move, and then we basically reverse what we just did. So we put this pair back into its slot, and you can bring this piece back up to the top, and then back into where it used to be. That was just my personal way of just kind of visualizing those pieces moving around. And obviously you will have to be familiar with the moves. Like I said earlier, you have to be familiar with the algorithms at least. You can't just say you move the slot up here, and you move this one here, and then here, and do a move and undo all that. Obviously you have to kind of know which sides you're turning like this. You just kind of have to get it in a flow. But that will definitely help you. It definitely did help me when I was learning that algorithm. And that's all this video should really be. Not learning how to memorize an entire algorithm all at once, but maybe you're having trouble just doing a little part of it. And so you look at that piece and you see how it moves around, and that will help you memorize it a lot better. Now when you're actually looking at the cube and looking at the pieces that are moving, there is another thing that can come in handy, and that's actually looking at the sides that you're turning and finding patterns in those. It's not like you'll always be able to find an algorithm that has a perfect pattern to it as you're turning the sides, but there are some algorithms that are like that, and also some parts of algorithms that will help you memorize them. And so my example for this is the Nicholas algorithm. This is the one that you learn in the beginner's method that goes like U, R, U prime, L prime, U, R prime, U prime, L. But instead of just looking at all those letters, there's a much easier way of thinking about it. Pretty much you just move this side over to here, and you turn the opposite side. Then you move this side over to here, you turn that opposite side, move it back, you bring this opposite side back down, you bring this back, and you bring that opposite side back down. So it's basically like this flow of this side, move that up, over to the other side, bring that up, other side, bring it down, other side, bring it down. It's just kind of this alternating U move while doing alternating L and R moves. So yeah, there's a very good visual pattern that I definitely used when I was learning the beginner's method of solving a cube to memorize those algorithms, but there are actually some other types of patterns which only appear in the algorithms. And so for example, we have the UA perm. So that is R, U prime, R, U, R, U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R2. So if you're just watching someone do that really fast like this, it may just kind of seem like a jumble of moves, there's no real pattern to it. But if you just take a look at the algorithm, then you can tell that there is a nice little sequence to it. So you have an R, then some sort of U move, another R, some sort of U move, another R, some sort of U move, another R, and then just kind of some finishing off U moves and R moves like this. But for those first little sequence, you have R, U prime R, U R, U R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R2. And so all those R's at the beginning make it very easy to memorize. All you have to do is memorize which way the U turns at the beginning. So you do an R, you just have to know it's U prime, then U, then U, then U prime. And then from there, you can just finish it off just doing that. You don't really have to memorize that last part because it's just so simple, just those three moves. And there you go, that's how I memorized the other U perm. And so you can find patterns in a lot of different algorithms. This is one of the ones that I use the most often when I'm learning algorithms. Just finding some sort of way to connect those letters together in a way that will make it memorable to you. Now there is one other kind of method that I've used in the past when I was memorizing algorithms, but it can be useful in a couple of minor cases. I actually used this when I was memorizing the layer by layer method algorithms on a Pyraminx. I don't actually still remember those algorithms, and so basically what I did is I kind of just skipped the visual memorization phase of learning and getting something into muscle memory, and I tried to just go straight to muscle memory from the sheet of paper. So I was looking at the piece of paper, I was doing the algorithm over and over again on the Pyraminx. I just did it so many times over and over again that it just kind of became muscle memory eventually. I never actually knew the algorithm, I never actually knew the letters, which is why I still can't remember it today. And so yeah, trust me, that one takes a long time, but after just doing the same algorithm over and over again on a cube, it just kind of can become muscle memory, just kind of by habit. It's basically just forced muscle memory. Another cube that I've done that on, which the algorithm I still remember and use all the time, is the parity algorithm on the square one. So yeah, this method basically works well with things that are ergonomic. So yeah, here it is. Again, I don't actually know the actual algorithm. My fingers just kind of flow along here, and yeah, it's just muscle memory. I don't know the actual algorithm. I couldn't write it out on a piece of paper without using the actual cube in front of me. But yeah, there it is. I just kind of use my fingers to flow around it, and eventually, as long as you don't mess up like I did there, it will become muscle memory. Now yeah, that forced muscle memory method isn't really advisable, but using all those other tricks like using triggers, memorizing only the first part of an algorithm and leaving the rest to just intuition, tracking pairs around, doing visual patterns, doing patterns in the letters, even if you can't memorize an entire algorithm using just one of those, if you break up the algorithm into little parts, maybe you can do one of them one way, another one the other way, and then just ignore the last part because you can figure that out as it comes, like that, then those altogether should better help you memorize algorithms. These are all tricks that I've used in the past. These are all things that have helped me learn algorithms in the past. So if there are any questions about any of these in particular, then go ahead and leave them in the comments below. But yeah, that's just about it for this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!